Hey, DJ Ranma S here from Anime Jam Session. We're here at Castle Point on a Sunday, walking around talking to a few cosplayers, and today we come to one of my good cosplay friends, Gina B.
Hello.
It was a pleasure to finally meet you after all this time.
I'm thankful, I don't recognize people all the time. People message me, I see regular profiles and I don't know who exactly they are. So I'm really excited that I was recognized to be able to, meet up finally.
I get the same thing. It's like on one profile they see who I am, but when I talk to them, they're like, oh, you're cool. I mean, I do my private one. They're like, who are you? And I'm like, I was on that one. Oh. So let me ask you, what made you decide to cosplay Officer Jenny?
Today or just in general?
In general.
Oh my, I'm a very big Pokemon fan, and as a kid I used to watch it on the Saturday morning cartoons before I went to like the whole school thing every morning and on weekends, and I collected the cards, and I'll admit it, I tried stealing them out of my friend's desks during recess, and
I used to do it with magic cards, ain't no shame in that. No shame in your game.
And I played the originals. I was a really big fan of the red, blue, yellow generation. And I was actually discussing on the way over here that I never got around to playing the advanced era of the games, because I never owned that version of the Game Boy. So I couldn't play the cartridges.
Right. Okay.
But I've recently gotten really back into playing with when Heart Gold and Soul Silver had come out.
Yeah.
I was in Japan at the time and I actually bought it in Japanese.
Nice.
And I played the hell out of it while I was there. And I was also there for the release of Black, so I picked that up. And I'm such a big Pokemon identifying, person. So Officer Jenny was the only person I felt that I could represent the older version but still be recognized.
Okay.
And it's not overdone either. And it's also something that's fun because I can run into other people that dress up as Officer Jenny, and it actually makes the costume better. Whereas, I feel like there's a lot of competition in the cosplay community where you run into someone in the same outfit and you get jealous or you're worried that theirs might be better than mine, or oh my goodness, what if I'm not recognized because someone else is better? But it's Officer Jenny, you just meet everybody and it's the best because then you all look the same, that's the point.
And then you get a starstruck Brock going, this Officer Jenny.
I have some bad Brock stories. I'm
Oh
not gonna lie.
God.
I'm not gonna lie. At Anime Expo, I was actually attacked by a Brock. I almost died, I think, because it was just I fell over and that was it. That was it. And actually earlier today I ran into a Brock and he gave me some flowers. It was embarrassing.
See, that's a Brock you take home to the precinct, be like, can I keep him? And I also know you from your other cosplay, Velma Dinklage from Scooby-Doo.
Yes, I do. It's been a fan favorite recently. I've gotten a lot of people telling me that I should bring her out more, but I don't want to overdo it.
I understand. It's just that Velma, where a lot of us, we realize she was the original nerd girl, and it's like every iteration of a nerd girl you see in animation or on a TV show, it kind of goes back to her because she kind of set the standard.
I actually really agree. She does represent everything that I was even as a kid. In middle school, I had horrendous acne, braces, glasses. I was in the honor society. I got picked on all the time. I did people's homework, and I really, because of that, I felt like I was that stereotypical, nerd kid when I was younger. Until I of course grew up and I grew boobs, and all of a sudden I was a girl. That was when I became a girl. But until then, I very much identify with that typical stereotype of that nerd image. So I love being Velma because it's something that I can be that people love. At the same time, you still identify with those basic feelings.
Okay. Now that we're talking about that in that general aspect, do you get that lot of flack or stereotype where you're cosplaying certain characters along those lines?
The most prominent, I think, on my page is people will be so quick to judge.
Right.
And that's not just with me, I think this is with most cosplayers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of articles going on around it on Facebook and on the other mediums right now of the judgment that people get.
Right.
And the first thing people will say is, oh, she's just a slut and wants attention. They're not necessarily caring what I am. And that's some people's opinion. I don't have to sit there and prove what I do, what I play, what I watch. You don't need to know how many hours I spent without sleep because I had to watch the next episode of Code Geass, or because, that was the things that I did in high school that I loved, and I don't need to prove that to anybody, realistically. And it's a shame too, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are trying to get into the community that are getting attacked, and they feel very persecuted, and they shouldn't, because it's their first costume. And I tell people all the time, my first costume was Sango from Inuyasha. I made that thing out of cardboard. My armor, it was at cardboard, like pizza boxes covered in fabric, and I was so proud of it. I was 14, but I was so proud of it.
Everybody has to start somewhere, and a lot of people, they don't have the resources to make it. So do you get just as much to pull it off? You know?
I totally agree. And then I also further that with, there's a lot of stereotypes that comes around with certain characters that you choose. Like, there's certain characters that are supposed to be more modest, like Velma. I feel that people want Velma to be sexy, so yeah, I can give a sexy look, or I can try to pose in a certain way, but there's no way that I will ever show stomach or flash anyone as that character, because she has a fundamental integrity to that character. Whereas I also cosplay as my Shiranui, and there's so much sex appeal in that costume that I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is victory pose, and there you go. There's enough sex appeal in that costume.
Or if you're Cammy, you do the victory pose.
Exactly.
See, one thing about mine, she can handle herself, so you know. I think the only person she's going to allow to let them have their way is with Andy, and Andy's like, yeah.
I think people are just afraid to come up to me when I'm in costumes like that, because they don't know how I'll react.
I see that, because it's like they want to take the picture, they don't know how to say or anything like that. I understand that.
And I also understand fully that there are a lot of people who are in the community that do have issues connecting with people on a conversational level. And I think there's a lot of cosplayers that are not mindful of that, and they'll be quick to judge and be like, oh, that guy was creepy, but it may not even be his fault. And I think that's something we do have to be more conscious of nowadays. That we have to be more considerate of our fellow community members.
Definitely. And now on the topic of cosplay is not consent. Have you ever been in a situation like that where somebody has asked you that random question and you're like, what did you just say?
I've had a very wide range of reaction. I have been touched, groped, in small ways as well as large ones. There's a lot of people that assume that if they ask, say, can I take a picture with you? And I'll say, yes, go ahead, I do not mind whatsoever. That to me means, like right now, they stand next to me and then you take a picture. But for them, they interpret that slightly different, and they'll grab me by the hips and pull into me.
So like,
but not even that, but they'll actually fully try to get them on me. And that makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable. But what am I going to do when there's so many people around? And they know that. They know that I can't get away. And then I've also had people who try to just completely grab my butt, or they try to grab my chest. And even though that makes me feel uncomfortable, if I was to flip out on that person, all they see in the, all other people see is me flipping out. So who's like, I'm going to be the one who looks like I'm in the wrong. So I can't salvage that situation. So we are pressured to kind of just deal with it. And even though I commend, I've been 16-bit sirens who are
doing the cosplay
launching this.
And then there was that other Tumblr, I forget her name, where she actually stood up and be like, what are you doing, you know?
I mean, I even have the vulgar statements, especially as Officer Jenny. I can't tell you how many people ask me if they can Squirtle on my Jigglypuffs. Like, at least be creative. If you're gonna...
See, something like that you should hear from like friends that you've known for years, because you know, haha, it's funny, but if it's a straight like, who are you?
Exactly, I don't know who you are, and that is very inappropriate. But again, you just brush it off. As a cosplayer, you learn just to just ignore all of that. But at the same time, like I said, with 16-bit sirens, I do commend them for trying to launch this type of program-ish thing that they're doing, where they're taking pictures of tons of cosplayers. And they're really trying to get the word out that, no, we're not there necessarily to be molested.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I completely am appalled by the whole thing. Why do we need to do this? Why is this an issue? Why do we actually need to treat this like it's a novel idea? Because it's not. Like, we should have some sort of, like, we understand that crashing into a cosplayer and breaking their costume is wrong. Like, we as a community should understand that molesting them as well is wrong.
Exactly.
So, like, it's one of those things, like, yeah, go for it, and they were able to raise awareness, but the fact that it needed to be raised is completely horrifying, to me at least.
Well, I completely understand, because as a cosplayer and a journalist, I see both sides of the coin, you know, so... Now, who would you say to a cosplayer, male or female, who they found themselves in a similar situation they didn't want to be in because of the way somebody said to them or how they're being held in a photo? What would you?
That's actually really important, and I recently was in this situation where a guy wanted a photo of me, and he didn't want the background that I was in, and I'm very agreeable. You know, you want to go over there to that blank wall, why not? But then I realized that I was away from my group, and I was cornered, and he's like, and another pose, and another pose, and another pose, and this is like, you know, I saw that he took at least 40, 50, 80 photos. You don't need another pose. I would like to leave, but he gets so annoying, like, and I just, he was so tall too, and I just shrunk down, and I was so horrified, like, how do I get away with this? Because when push comes to shove, if he really did want something out of me, that's going to happen. And as a girl, I have to protect myself against that. And it's just so difficult to get out of the situation. But then you also have to realize that opening your mouth might make you feel bad, but it's going to save you.
Exactly, definitely.
Just like saying something, you might feel bad for saying no, but like you sometimes just have to. And walking away is also an option. I mean, obviously using physical force to get away is definitely escalating too far, but even if you can go to conventions, always go in groups. I always go now with my boyfriend and a friend, and they see when I have that SOS sign that kind of like signals out, we have our secret hand signs kind of a thing, and they can swoop in and save me. So never go to a con alone, actually, is my biggest recommendation for being in those uncomfortable situations. Because if someone else is paying attention, you can always come up and be like, you know that thing that we need to do, and then you're like, oh yeah, and then you can leave. So always try to prevent yourself from getting in that situation is the best. But I know not everybody can see where it's needed. So it's one of those hard things to get out of.
Well, at least now you let people know, at least they can figure out a way to find a solution to get out of that so it doesn't happen.
Right.
So thank you for your time, Gina. It was a pleasure.
It was so great talking to you.
No, it's not. Anytime.